All right, good morning. Welcome, everyone. My name is Chris McKinney, and I'm a lead for partnership development here at Region 1 Education Service Center. And I'm really excited to have you all join us this morning. Have Dr. Elisa Alvarado, who is the director of this grant, PATHS 4. Welcome, Elisa.
Thank you, Chris, and thank you so much for joining us today, everybody. We're really excited to be here on this first kickoff session of Cybermentoring for 23-24. So I know that you guys are going to have a great time and learn a lot from our presenter, Carlos, and we're really excited to have him here today.
And this is Carlos Ponce, everyone. We're going to be getting to know Carlos and hearing his story and how he became an LVN. And so at this time, I'm going to quickly share screen. And this is today's topic. Licensed vocational nurse is what everybody wants to hear about it. And again, Carlos Ponce is an LVN BAT, and he works currently at DHR Health as the risk coordinator.
Hi, good morning, everybody. Hope everybody's doing well.
Awesome. So Carlos, we're going to just jump right in and we're going to hear a little bit about yourself. I'd like to know, where are you from? Are you a Valley native?
I am a Valley native, yes. I went to high school in Weslaco, Texas, Weslaco East High School, and born and raised. I've been staying here. My career has been all in the Valley in different facets. I think I've used my my LVN license in almost every possible way you can probably use it. So I'm very excited to go into that today. Maybe offer a different perspective.
So tell us, how long have you been? You look like a young guy. How long have you been an LVN? Tell us a little bit about.
So I think I had just turned 22 when I applied for the LVN school at Valley Baptist Medical Center. They have a LVN program there, and so that's where So I would say it's been about 15 years since I've been fully licensed.
15 years. That's awesome. Tell us a little bit about high school. As you see, I'm sharing your Weslaco East High School. It looks like a band picture.
I'm in there somewhere. 10 points if y'all can find me.
It's like, where's Malda, right?
So yeah, that was high school was probably the most important year as far as determining what pathway I was going to go through. So back then, it's like the early 2000s, we had what were called CATE courses. And I think they were just getting started with providing students the opportunity to, I know back then it was either you can be a pharmacy technician or you can go and join one of the CNA classes. So I didn't do either of those, which I regret completely back then. What I did do was I got in as many health science courses that I could possibly do in the 4 years that I was in high school, to try and absorb as much information as I could and to really determine if I liked it. And Weslaco East they didn't offer the pharmacy technician or the CNA at that time. But what they did offer was HOSA. I'm not sure if y'all are familiar with that organization. It was called back then Health Occupation Students of America, and now they've changed the name. And I should know it, but off the top of my head, I can't. But I know they've changed the name. I think now it's called Health Occupation Students or something along those lines. But yeah, so during those 4 years, I got in the clubs. I was taking every health science course that I could. And I also volunteered at our local hospital during the summers. And all of that information was given to me during my time in those courses. And so I knew once I graduated that this is the path I'm going to go down. and it all started from there. Mr. Jaime Garcia, if you're listening, he was one of the one of the teachers that influenced me to go down that path.
Awesome. So what kind of triggered you? What was there any situation growing up that made you consider, going into
Absolutely.
nursing?
Yeah.
Was it just, what was kind of the?
So from an early age, I remember my mom going through, she climbed up the nursing career ladder, the nursing career pathway, and I saw her graduate with her LVN, and she loves nursing. She's passionate about the profession. So as soon as she was in LVN for a few years and she wanted more, so she went and she got her bachelor's, she got her BSN, and she wanted more, so she went and she got her MP, and all of this while I was in school. So as I was growing up, I was seeing her progress and seeing her achieve all of these wonderful things, and I knew I wanted to be a part of it somehow. It was a big influence.
Awesome. Great. Thank you for sharing. So you're taking all these classes in high school, and then what's your next step? What do you do after you're indoctrinated into the health science kind of realm?
So yeah, I'll like during that time, what I did was I didn't know then what I know now. So a couple of years was spent taking my basic courses at UTRGV and South Texas College. But what had happened was I was taking courses that really didn't apply to my pathway. I really didn't utilize like their student success advisors, and I didn't really have that formal, that formal mentorship and leadway to make sure. So there was a couple of courses that I didn't really need to take. I could have, looking back now, the school that I went to was actually a vocational school. It wasn't through the normal college pathways. So I probably would have just jumped right into it. But like I said, as soon as, my few years in college led up to me applying for that position. I actually applied to two programs at the same time, and I said, well, whichever one accepts me, because both are very competitive, and I'll get into that a little bit later. I had applied for the physical therapy assistant program through STC, and then I applied for the LVN program through Valley Baptist Medical Center.
Okay. So tell us about that journey then. So who accepted you first, or what all happened?
So, okay. So, and I like to talk about this because sometimes I think students going into these professions don't understand how really competitive it is here in the Valley to get into these programs. Actually, I got the letters about a week or two from each other. So the PTA physical therapy assistant program, I didn't get into that one. And I got into Valley Baptist School for Vocational Nursing. So I just went down that pathway. I really wanted to do both, and I think I would have been passionate about both, but nursing was just the way that it was going to be at that time. The PTA program, this is physical therapy assistant, I believe they had it was close to 500 applicants for 30 spots. So yeah, back then I'm not sure how it is now, but back then it was extremely hard to get into the program. So no, but either way it turned out, because like I said earlier, I think I've utilized my license, my LVN license, in almost any possible facet really, and we can get into that a little bit later.
So how long does it take? You get acceptance. What are your next steps? How long is it?
So one thing to understand for nursing school, this was for LVN vocational school, it's about 1 year. You start in January and you graduate in December. Monday through Friday, 8 in the morning till about 5 o'clock at night. And your last quarter, usually focusing on clinicals. You go to the hospital and you get as much practice in as you can. For my situation, well, actually the program stated that we should not work. So that's something to consider. Based on the rigor of the program, it was difficult. Academically, it was difficult. I would say very rigorous, lots and lots and lots of reading, I don't think I ever read as much as when I was in nursing school. The grade point averages are a little bit different. It's not like in traditional college setting where I think what's passing at college, like what would you say is considered?
Generally, a C.
70, right? Like
Yeah,
that's
70.
generally your passing, right? In nursing school, depending on the program you go to, and this is both for LVN and for registered nurses, it's about 75 to 78. So you have to maintain your average at that level. So it was extremely stressful. Apart from that, it's pretty pricey. So back in 2000 and well, 15 years ago, I don't even know the year anymore. 15 years ago was about $10,000 for the program. And so, you know, you have that on your shoulders and you want to make sure you pass, and no exceptions. Every week you had an exam every Friday. So you learned your curriculum Monday through Thursday. Friday, you take your exam. And then bi-weekly, what they would do is they would post your average, what you had, and depending on that average, determined whether you were able to come back the following week.
Wow.
Yeah, so like I said, it's been some time. I'm not sure how these schools operate now, but yeah, it was very stressful. Anything lower, for us it was 78. Anything lower than that, you were asked to go speak with one of the teachers and the admin for the school, and if you didn't meet that mark, you just didn't come back to school for that Monday, you know. We started off with about 60 students in January, and then by December we were down to about 28 or 30 students, something like that. About half of the class made it to the end.
Wow. And that was through Valley Baptist?
That was through Valley Baptist Medical Center.
Okay, so 1 year. And then what were your next steps? Obviously you were successful, so congratulations.
Oh, thank you.
Getting that week-to-week rigor.
I know. But yeah, so the next steps were get a job.
Okay.
That was my next move. One of the common misconceptions, and I can clearly speak to it, is that if you really do want your LVN as opposed to RN, sometimes in school we were hearing that job opportunities were limited for LVN. You know, they were kind of phasing them out. But I can definitely say if being an LVN and not an RN is your passion, there is such a demand right now in the RGV for all healthcare professionals. So in case you hear those little rumors, I would say, and this is just my opinion, they're untrue. They're not true. There are many positions available right now for LVNs.
Excellent. And so obviously you got a job and going, but I hear you did not stop there. So tell us, what was your next step in the educational foray?
So those years, I think I spent 2 years just practicing, just working as an LVN. I worked at one of our local hospitals to get the bedside experience, and then I transitioned over to private duty practice, where I specialized in taking care of pediatric clients on ventilators. But after that, I knew, and you'll know once you're actually in the field, that if you want more, if you want to achieve more, you have to go back to school and, you know, continue. So I continued with my courses through South Texas College, got my associates, and then I went directly into the bachelor's program. It's called the Bachelor's of Applied Technology there at STC, South Texas College. And the degree itself is a medical and health services management. With the few years that I had worked as a nurse, I kind of knew that I didn't want to go through to the RN, but I definitely enjoyed working in some aspects of healthcare. And I knew I wanted to transition that way. So that's why I decided to go through that bachelor's program. In the meantime, while I was going to school, I was able to broaden my experience. I had already done patient care, direct in hospital setting, home health setting. I even did managed care for a little bit. That's like working with insurances. And then I had done the private duty, one-on-one patient care for clients on ventilators.
Wow, that sounds like that was really a challenge. You know, someone at that level, that's not easy.
Yeah, the thing with nursing is I love it because, you know, some people, there's, how do I say it? There's a job for everybody in this profession. You can do, if you want to work in a hospital, you can go work in a hospital. If you don't want to have direct patient care, you can go work for managed care. There's mental health positions. There are so many. If you want to work in a doctor's office, it's a little bit less stress. There you go. It's really catered to the person, really. There's so many opportunities with this profession.
Okay. And I know that you then moved on. What was your next step, or did someone influence you into where you are today as far as your being a risk manager?
Yes. So I'm going to go back to high school because high school is where it all started. I know it sounds, you know, it's a little strange, but my health science teachers really influenced me greatly, to the point where even before I came, I'm currently at DHR, I work as an LVN risk coordinator. Before that, I actually went to go teach HOSA, the health science courses. So that's what I was doing at McAllen High School. And that was, I did that for about 5 years before I came back to the hospital. Yeah, and I think you have some of those, the pictures of my clinical students. So one of my goals was to, I had done, you know, I had done all those different positions as an LVN. That's my LVN teacher, actually, Miss Reyes. That's one of our pinning ceremonies. If you're a nurse, if you get into nursing school, everybody looks forward to this day. You get your hats, you get your pins, all of those things. It's a lot of fun. It's kind of like it's very symbolic of all the hard work you put into it. So everybody enjoys that.
That's awesome. And so then you said that you worked in McAllen.
Yeah, I came to McAllen, and I actually did what my instructors did for me back so many years ago when I was in high school. So I got to certify students I taught multiple certification courses. That's broadened so much since when I was in school. And I kind of joke around and say, hey, I wish they had this when I was in school. As you know, y'all should take advantage. So I was certifying students as medical assistants, EKG technicians, phlebotomists. There was also a pharmacy technician course. So yeah, there's so many opportunities right now. And I would suggest for the students listening, if this is something of interest, and this goes beyond just LVN, RN, if you want to be a physician someday, or if you want to be a physical therapist or a respiratory therapist, x-ray technician, you name it, I would definitely take advantage of your health science related courses that are offered, that offer certifications, because depending on your district, I know when I was in McAllen, these are free. These are all free. And the way it works when you apply for college, um, because the demand is so high and it's so competitive, they go based off of a point system. So any certifications that you gain while you're in high school, that adds points to your overall score, which increases your chances of getting into these programs quicker. So that's just something to keep in mind. I really advocate for these programs. I love them. I think they're so helpful for students that want to work. After they've been certified, you know, that's a possibility. It wasn't uncommon for me to get phone calls from our local clinics asking if I had students that were certified and ready to go. And then they're offered job opportunities, you know, depending if you want them or not.
Awesome. So looks like maybe one of your classes in front of the.
The Big M at McAllen High School,
Yeah.
yeah. So this was actually, they were very excited every year, every time they get their scrubs, they want to take pictures right then and there. So actually, this is even before we started going to the hospital, but they got their purple scrubs with their patches and their names sewn on. They're very excited. They wanted to go, you know, take pictures out there by the M and things like that. It's just like, you know, it's a really fun time for them. because they know they're gonna go to the hospital. You can't compare that experience. They actually get to go to these places, and they work side by side with licensed medical professionals. So it's a really, really good opportunity for them. I'm not sure how the other districts work, but for ours, it's not CATE anymore. It's not CATE. Now it's just CTE, Career Technology Education, right?
Yes, career technical education. You're exactly right. And one of the things I always kind of preach to students is just try it out. Like you're saying, do it while it's free. You mentioned it took you what, $10,000 for a 1-year course.
Well,
so if you can kind of figure something out in high school while it's free, then you can, hey, this isn't for me. I want to go pursue something else, or hey, this is exactly where I'm meant to be.
Absolutely. And that is probably more valuable than anything else, because you'll know, I guarantee you'll know, once you've been in there and you see how it is, and you go to the hospitals with your instructors and you see how they work, it really, really broadens their perspective. Some of them love it more, and some of them say, you know what, I don't really like this. I think I want to try something else, which is, in my opinion, it's the most valuable thing at that age to be able to experience, because you really, really get firsthand experience of what it's going to be like if you decide to go that pathway when you go to college.
Excellent. Now, you said that you enjoyed the LVN, but you didn't want to be an RN, so that you took bachelor's courses, and then and you wanted to get into management. What?
Yeah. So I really liked, my time as a teacher actually influenced this change. I really enjoyed working with the students. I enjoyed working with administration, and my time there, I really like to study whenever I'm in a new position. I like to see what everybody does. And I was watching how the counselors worked and how students have access to resources. And during that time, I made a conscious decision to actually switch paths. I didn't want to go down nursing so much, because I felt I had given a good amount of time and passion to that. So I wanted to transition to mental health counseling. And that was really influenced by my interaction with my students and then the people that I worked with. I know I wanted to stay in a clinical setting, but in a different facet, in a different aspect. So my bachelor's, I wanted to choose something that I could apply to administration, to clinical, something that had a wide span. So I did decide to go into the Bachelor's of Applied Technology for Medical and Health Services Management.
Excellent. So you talked about Valley Baptist, and then you said South Texas. You were at South Texas College as well.
Yeah.
How long were you there? And then did you get your bachelor's from South Texas, or?
Yeah, I got my bachelor's in South Texas, and took about 2 years.
2 years.
Yeah, the program, and now they even offer accelerated. I know one of my colleagues actually right here at DHR, she actually went through the same program, but accelerated. I think it was less than a year, if I'm not mistaken. Somewhere around a year, more or less, but it was rigorous. I kind of saw her every step of the way going through the same pathway I did, but it was just in a much more condensed, faster method. But she finished and she passed.
That's excellent.
So now she's moving on to her master's as well.
And so there was a kind of a gap in between those, obviously, and you said it was $10,000 to pay for that initial 1 year to become an LVN. And then did you work to kind of pay off, or did you get any kind of scholarships or help along the way? Kind of tell us how these students can manage that so they're not up to their ears in debt.
Really good question. So the beautiful thing now is that all of these programs have so many different variations. So the one that I went through was Monday through Friday, 8 to 5. Basically, they told us, if you get a job, and they were being very frank, if you work while you're in this program, you're not going to pass. They said they had students try it in the past and it never worked out. So they strongly recommended, if not flat out told us, you shouldn't work while you're in this program. So what I had to do was I really depended on my family during that 1 year financially. But now they offer, that was a year. That was a year. If you want to look at it as accelerated, we can do that. Now, these vocational schools, as well as South Texas College and UTRGV for LVN school, what they have now is you can get into some of their programs only require you to go 3 days out of the week, weekends. So you can do just Saturday, Sunday courses as opposed to Monday through Friday, or 3 days during the week. They've catered so much to students now, and I think that's wonderful. It might take a little bit longer, but for those that are having questions about finances and things like that, that would be a perfect avenue to go through. So you could possibly work while you're going to school if you need to. But yeah, for my situation, that's how it panned out. I worked up until I couldn't work. Literally, I was working as a rehab technician at one of our local nursing homes. And then I got the acceptance letter for nursing school, and I gave my 2 weeks. After that, it was just school for a year. And when I graduated, I think it took me about a week or two. I'm telling you, like, the demand is so high. I think I was out of school for 2 weeks. During that time, I had taken my licensure exam. I found out 2 days later I passed. I was working just a couple of days after that.
Excellent. And so working, what is it like in that, in your role as an LVN when after you finished?
So because I've worked in different, I'm gonna talk about the usually everybody starts off as a floor nurse or having direct patient care. And most of the time, and this is not the case for everybody, but most of the time you'll start off in a hospital. They like to start off new nurses, either LVN or RN, on what are called medical surgical floors, because it's on those floors that you get the acuity of the patient is not too high, and you get to learn all your skills during this time. So that's usually the recommendation. So in a hospital setting, you're looking at working anywhere from 3 to 4 days a week. That's usually how they operate. Again, it just depends. You get there around, and they're 12-hour shifts. So typically you get there at around 6:45 in the morning, and you leave about 7:30 more or less at night. And then during that time, what you're doing is you usually have a list of patients, and you're working as a team. You work with physicians, nurses, all the other therapies, physical, respiratory. You work as a team to provide standards of care for your patient, to ensure patient safety, and to make sure that all of their prescribed medications are being delivered, all of their interventions are being delivered within that 12-hour span.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so how long did you do that before you moved on to your next step in your career?
So I was there. I started off at one of our local hospitals. I was there for about a year, and then I got an offer to work at private duty nursing, which you'll see once you become an LVN, the opportunities just start coming. You get to pick and choose where you want to work. Salary plays into it. Sometimes you get offered more, sometimes the benefits. So that'll definitely sway your decision. And the beauty of it is you get to choose, like you get to pick exactly where you want to work. There's so much opportunity and so much need for it that you can be selective in the kind of setting that you want to work at.
Awesome. That sounds really good. Very enticing.
And I will say this though, you have to like what you do. You have to love what you do if you're going to be a nurse. Healthcare burnout is a real thing, and you don't want to go into a profession like this for financial gain. Really, you want to really make sure that your motives are in the right place, because it is hard. It's hard work. It's hard work. It's very stressful. It's a risky position to have, because remember, we're people helping people, right? Like you have somebody's life in your hands. So you just want to make sure that your motivations are in the right place. And I think if that's what you want to do, you'll put everything into it. I think you'll be just fine.
Awesome. And now currently you're working at DHR Health as an LVN risk coordinator. Can you tell us a little bit about how you got there, what that's like, what's a day in the life of being a risk coordinator? etc.
So this is really interesting because all my life I had been, or I'm sorry, all my nursing career was direct patient contact, right? So now as a risk coordinator for DHR Health, what we do is now we see the back end of that. It's not, I don't have direct patient contact anymore, but now we look at the policies and we look at the safety practices of the organization, uh, and how they apply to patient safety and the implementation by nurses and healthcare workers. So it's just basically we monitor that aspect, and yeah, we just promote patient safety through our safety practices and policies. So from when I was a nurse, I was implementing these policies in real time on patients, hands-on. Now what we're doing is we're studying them, we're developing them, we're helping develop them, and we do this with nursing leadership and physician executives to to deliver these safe practices.
That's
It's really interesting because
who's the team, and how many are there multiple, and you have like a group that you work with? You work with everybody? Can you
so the risk, yeah, the risk management team, it's actually a small group. It's only about, I think it's one, I don't want to get it wrong, right? There's 5 of us in the team under our director. And even though it's a small group, we are really working with, I think, every department in DHR Health. And DHR is a big organization, but I think we have communication with all leaders from every department of this hospital. So even though it's a small group, our arms reach to all of these other departments, and you just learn so much. I don't think I've ever learned as much about healthcare than in this position. And if you are not the type of person that wants to do direct patient care, something like this is available, you know.
How did you find out about it? Just you basically had maybe your own risk coordinator that you kind of modeled the plan after, or?
Well, I found out about it actually because I wasn't even looking at risk management positions really. I was interested in what's called quality positions, and that's just to, again, it's kind of under the same realm really. It's all about patient safety measures, and I was just interested in it. I had inquired about some positions for it, and it's actually the risk management team that reached out, and what did it actually was the LVN experience.
Okay.
So that's how it all kind of tied in together. They saw that I was a nurse, that I had taught for a few years, all the teamwork and all of the background kind of just lent itself to the position. So it really was a blessing, and I can't stress it enough. These types of jobs, if you want to, they can open up so many windows. Yeah, there's so many opportunities right now in healthcare that you really can pick your setting. I know I keep going back to that, but it's very true.
I mean, that's important. It really is. These students probably don't understand how important that it, like you say, in reflection, looking back, if I knew, then what I know now, etc.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's a big piece. And that's what this today is all about. You're mentoring these students, you're giving them some advice, that you maybe wish you had back then. Now talk about the skills. What skills are necessary for your role right now?
So right now, the skills, it's not like when you're a floor nurse, when the skills are hands-on. The skills to work in a position like risk management or quality, it's basically your background knowledge. So, I think one of the requirements is you have X amount of years as actual hands-on patient interactions, right? Because you're going to be assisting in implementing policy changes sometimes, or developing policies for safety, patient safety interventions and initiatives. So they really want somebody with a background in nursing, because it's good to know what our frontline healthcare workers are doing, and your experience and how you can influence all of these policy changes. So yeah, it's basically for these types of positions, it's your knowledge, it's your background knowledge and experience that really helps.
That makes sense. That's awesome. So how many people do you oversee or work with, like as far as the LVNs that are at the front lines working? with
Yeah,
direct.
so we work with all the nurses at DHR Health,
Okay.
really. Yeah, we monitor safety events. When anything comes in, that's what we do. We kind of monitor safety events, see if interventions need to be made, and then we forward to the appropriate channels to ensure that those changes are being made or addressed. So yeah, it's kind of it's hard to define really. We kind of like do we do like everything when it comes to those types of scenarios here at this organization.
That's awesome. Awesome. But I'm going to take a little twist that you were definitely motivated to continue your education. And
Yes.
you talked about the importance of mental health, that you saw that, all the way back to high school. You want to share a little more about what has kind of driven you to continue your educational efforts and pursue a master's?
Absolutely. So I started my master's when I was teaching the clinical courses at McAllen High School. I really was influenced by my interaction with the students, and I thought this would be the best route to go. Um, so my end goal is to become a licensed professional counselor in LPC. And I used my Bachelor's of Applied Technology to apply for the master's program. Um, what some of the students might want to know is that do your research. Yeah, I would suggest my student success advisors from both South Texas College and Walden University really helped me understand what the program entailed, the requirements, some of the sacrifices that I was going to have to make in order to reach my goals. And they line it up very clearly, because I remember when I was in high school, I mean, it's very overwhelming when you're transitioning from high school to college. You're not sure which classes to take. You're not sure you're taking the right courses or if you're in the correct pathway for what you really want. So I would really suggest in-person meetings with your student success advisors. I know that's what they're called at STC and at Walden. I'm not sure at UTRGV what they're called, but they are instrumental. They will help you outline your pathway. Sometimes they'll auto enroll you for your next courses, so that way you're not taking unnecessary classes that aren't relevant to your degree. And then very accessible through email, through phone, in person, whatever you need. That's my advice for that. And basically that's how I transitioned to the master's for clinical mental health counseling. They basically told me that what I would need. They helped me with the application process itself, and I'm currently still in it. I'm almost done. I think I'll be finished in the summer of 2024.
Awesome. Congratulations.
Thank you. I was able to do my clinical rotations here at DHR Health, so that was convenient. Yeah.
Now, is there a path within your current team with this LPC, or what are your plans on once you do complete and receive your master's? Do you have next steps that are in your?
Yeah, great question. And the answer is I'm not sure yet.
You
So
just
just like with nursing, the demand right now for mental health professionals is it's so big. Um, yeah, the demand exceeds our resources, really. We don't have enough. We don't have enough nurses. We don't have enough mental health professionals. So I can, you can, again, it's just like the nursing. You can work in any environment, any setting you'd like. Um, even my director right now within the risk department, we're trying to transition to more enterprise. Right now we're focused on patient safety, but we do want to branch out, and there's opportunities to merge a degree in mental health with positions like that. So it's possible. It just keeps growing and growing. I haven't decided quite yet. Again, I'm using my clinical experience to gain knowledge on how every time I get to go to the actual site to do my clinical rotations, I ask I ask the employees, I ask the other therapists, do you enjoy what you're doing? Where have you worked at before? Which do you like best? I ask all of those questions so that I can get a better understanding of the direction I'm going to go.
Awesome. Great answer. And I know we're going to cover a few helpful tips, but before I get into that, Students, teachers that are participating today, I want to give you some time if you would like to use the chat, or if you have the ability to unmute, just get some questions maybe together. And we're going to kind of wrap this session up. Not yet, but we're going to head toward that direction. And that way we can address any of your current questions that you had after kind of hearing the story of Carlos Ponce and his trek from high school and all the way through getting in his LVN into college, and now his current master's program. So if you have some questions, again, think about that. You can either put them in the chat or kind of raise your hand, let us know, and you can unmute your mic. So just kind of want to pose that for y'all. And now I'm going to go into some helpful tips. Again, as we said just a little few minutes ago, if you could hear something, to your previous self, some really good advice that would kind of maybe, for whatever reason, have you better prepared. Maybe you weren't so stressed making that 78, you'd studied better, something so that maybe that's what got you to mental health. You were struggling back then, who knows? But what are some helpful tips for our awesome audience that's joining today, either live or will hear the recorded message?
Okay, so my first thing is, if you're in high school and you really want to do this, try as hard as you can to get into your CTE health science courses. A lot of, when I was a teacher, everybody thought this was going to be like Grey's Anatomy. And I'm sorry to tell you, but it's not like the TV show. So my advice at the high school level is really, really try to immerse yourself in as many courses that are related to health science. If you can get into the certification programs that some of these districts might offer, even better. From high school to college transition, use your counselors at your school, and also reach out to your student success advisors at your college. They will put you on the right track. They were instrumental. Had I known that back then, I know I took unnecessary courses that kind of delayed my time and money. They're expensive. So do that, because they're so helpful and they're at your disposal. Like they're resources you can use. So that's that. Once you get into nursing school, it is extremely, extremely important to develop an effective way to study. There is not one method, so I can't tell you what I used is going to work for anybody else, but you do really have to focus and get a system as to how to study. Whether you're doing an accelerated course or if it's one that's more lengthy, it is so much information that you need to learn. And at the end of the day, it's about your licensure, right? You want to ensure that you are knowledgeable to provide standards of care and that you are prepared to take your exam, which for nurses, it's the NCLEX, the National Council Licensure Examination. That's the ultimate goal that we want to pass. Yeah, your teachers are your supports, but you really do have to determine what's the best way for you to retain information for you to study.
That brings up a good point. And this is something I heard, and you mentioned in talking with you prior, you talk about working as a team. Did you have study groups? Did you work with your peers? Were they instrumental in helping you kind of learn, things better versus, I know some people are like, hey, just let me study and focus by myself.
Yeah.
Talk about that dynamic.
For sure. I cannot do study groups. This is my system. I have to be alone. I have to read the entire chapter, take notes, and then reread my notes. I've been doing that for 15 years. Anything that requires me to take an exam or study for licensure or certifications, you name it, that's my system. I couldn't do groups. And I developed it in nursing school. I learned after our first test, groups is not going to work for me. And you have to learn quick. It depends on how fast your program is, of course. But I did have other friends that excelled in groups. Like they did so well and they needed those groups to pass. So again, it's not a like a one type situation. You really
Perfect. It's not a cookie cutter. You're exactly right. I'm
absolutely,
more like you. I'm more of a, getting rid of distractions, put music on something, just to drown out the noise and focus. But others require that, and that
absolutely.
constant back and forth questioning and sharing. Oh, that's what they mean, and that just hearing a different perspective can do so much.
Yeah, yeah. I had to read, write, highlight, reread, and then I was good to go. That takes a long time, but I mean, that's what I did.
Okay, just because that's where they are now. They're
Mhm.
knee deep in all the studying right now in high school. So
Yeah.
move fast forward to getting a job,
Mhm.
and there's a question that we're going to come back, as talking about job and salary. What are some of the skills needed, like soft skills? We mentioned working as a team. Can you share a little bit about, once you finish and complete and get a job, then how do you work with those around you, your colleagues?
Teamwork as a nurse, as any healthcare professional, it's a lifesaver. It's that important. You have to be able to communicate effectively to physicians, to other healthcare professionals, the other disciplines, because remember again, we're dealing with lives here. We're dealing with patients. So you have to communicate effectively. You have to work as a team in order to be successful within this profession. That means constant communication, um, you know, kind of delineating tasks sometimes to promote patient safety and reorganizing and being able to be flexible. You have to be very flexible as a nurse because nothing's ever set, right? Like you can't determine how your day's going to go. And it depends on the patient's condition and what's happening on that day. So you do have to be very flexible.
Awesome. I appreciate that. So now
Mhm.
kind of take us through, we've had this path of, LVN and bachelor's and working your way up. Can you tell us maybe a breakdown along the way at each step, what the salary was like so they can kind of have an
Mhm.
idea and their perspective? And a lot of times you talk about per hour, but what does that mean for the year? For what kind of living, what kind of car do
Sure.
sometimes it's hard. They need different visuals, if you will.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a great question. So for LVNs, if you're going to be fresh out of nursing school, you're looking anywhere from, and my values aren't going to be exact. These are just approximations. I would say anywhere from a new grad, you're looking at, I would say about 20 to $25 an hour, depending on your setting. Your settings are going to make a big difference. Nursing homes, hospitals, things like that. It's going to determine typically home health. In historically, they've paid a little more, but you don't get as much experience as you would in a hospital. Hospitals are always, sometimes they have competitive rates based on the other hospitals. So sometimes you can get a little bit higher, but generally as an LVN grad, you're looking anywhere from 20 to $25 an hour. Experienced, and depending on your unit, sometimes if you have higher acuity patients, that's a little bit more because sometimes the hospitals add what are called differentials. So you can be making anywhere up towards $30 an hour. It just depends. It's kind of a big gap, but again, they go based off of your experience and the acuity of the types of patients that you're going to be taking care of. Typically, higher acuity, meaning your patients are a little sicker, you're going to get paid more an hour to take care of them.
Gotcha. And you mentioned a day is 12 hours. And so, typical work week is 40 hours a week, but you said 3 to 4 days. When you add that up, 36 would be three. So what
Mm-hmm.
happens when you go over 40? Did you get, time and a half? Do
Yeah.
you,
Again, it's going to depend. It's going to depend on your facility.
okay.
But yeah, you would get paid time and a half. You can work overtime as long as you're within the standards that are set by the Texas Board of Nursing. You can't work too much either, because then you start incurring like patient safety issues with that. But yeah, if you can do overtime, um, yeah, and then that's time and a half plus your differential if you're working with higher acuity patients. So it kind of stacks up and stacks up and stacks up sometimes.
And that's
If you want to
entry level.
travel, you can, if you want to travel, you can just, whatever figures I gave you, you can like up it a third because travel nurses get paid a lot. However, the thing with travel nursing is, and it's a common misconception, that after you graduate from nursing school, you can go right to traveling. I would highly advise against that. Most of the time, your travel agencies will require at least 2 years of direct patient experience, because when you travel, it's under the it's understood that you've already have your experience under your belt. Your orientation time is sometimes a week, as opposed to in a hospital, you get I think it's like 6 weeks, 6 to 8 weeks, sometimes 2 months. So it's a big difference, right? You want to take safety into account as well. But the opportunities are there.
Okay.
Absolutely.
And do they also kind of grade you on like a curve, like, you know, a new person versus someone with 3 years, 5 years, you know, are there raises along the way? How do you negotiate that? What?
Yeah, all of that is dependent on the organization that you work for. Yeah, some of them will negotiate with you. Absolutely. I've done it in the past in various settings. Can you get me here? And most of the time, because the demand is so high, they've accommodated.
Okay. In leadership positions, obviously does that work with like a stipend and new salary schedule? How does that work?
So leadership positions, if you're interested in that, most of them are salaried, and those are going to be and yes, you get benefits, and depending on the organization, raises in various ways. Yes.
Okay.
I will say this though, if you are interested in leadership positions, the trend now is master's level degree at least.
Okay. And just students, I've been there as a high school, like benefits, what kind of over my head. We're talking life insurance, health insurance, you know, dental insurance, things like that, that your employer will pay for, so you don't have to pay out of pocket. So those are just extras. You know,
those are just
fringe
extras.
benefits, things like that. So that's not coming out of your pocket per se, but it might adjust your salary schedule because they have to pay thousands of dollars a year to accommodate that. And that's, again, something negotiable. Generally.
Absolutely. And sometimes it's not uncommon where a nurse will say, you know what, well, I'll get paid a little less here, but they offer so many benefits. I think I'm going to go with these people. You have to take, it's not so much your hourly or yearly salary. You have to also determine your situation and what's most beneficial to you. And the beauty of it is this profession allows you to do that. You know, you have multiple options.
Exactly. And not to scare you off about all this and worry like, oh, there's so much to learn. Get a mentor. You know, I think that's always a really good, you know.
Yes.
And Carlos talked about it, whether it's a counselor, a teacher, just bond with someone, you know, an adult that's kind of been there, has some experience. And I love it. You put ask a million questions. Fine.
Ask so many questions. Yeah. And trust me, like they love to share. We love to share our, you know, any advice. Even now in the masters, like I said earlier, I'm asking questions because I'm not sure exactly which setting I want to be in when I'm finished ultimately. So I'm asking, you know, do you like your job? What don't you like about it? You know, all of those things. So that way you can get a better understanding.
Excellent. Excellent. And one of the last things I want to cover, again, we talked about this earlier, you know, focus on some of these CTE health courses. Do you have any specific courses maybe for those that are, you know, earlier in high school that still have a chance to maybe take these before they graduate?
Sure. So the way it worked in McAllen, and that's the only district I've ever worked for, is you know, they have pathways. And so typically if you want to go down this route, and it's even the first class I took in high school, it's called Principles of Health Science. Yeah, that's your very first baby course. You know, that's the first one that opens up all the windows to all the opportunities your districts might have for you. Okay. Your health science, Principles of Health Science teachers should have all of that information if you're interested. They go over medical terminology, what it's like to work in a hospital or in a healthcare setting. It's great. It really you know, after that class, am I interested in this or not? So I think it's really instrumental. It's really good.
Obviously biology, but most freshmen take biology.
Anatomy and physiology is another one.
Physiology, as I say, that's a tougher course, but that really helps you into that role of LVN and beyond.
That one in high school is probably the one that helped me the most in nursing school. My anatomy and physiology course that I took at Westlake East High School, I still remembered some of the information, and it really helped during nursing school, believe it or not.
Awesome. Are there any other questions out there? I'm kind of, coming to a close here. We're just a few minutes before the hour. And again, I can't thank you enough, Carlos, for taking the time to prep today, to be here today, to take time out of your day. Again, he's on the clock right now. And so we appreciate DHR for allowing him to come speak and mentor y'all. Are there any questions before we go ahead and sign off for today? Again, you can either unmute, it's the quickest way, or you can type it out in the chat.
Yes, hello?
Yes, go right ahead, Dulce.
Yes, hi. We would like to know if maybe we could get a little bit of information about how some LVNs are offered to take that bridge program to become RNs.
Excellent question. So this is a trend I've been seeing over the past couple of years. I know Valley Baptist does this. South Texas and UTRGV, they've been doing this for some time now. But if you're looking more towards vocational courses, it's I know Valley Baptist Medical Center just recently started, and Rio Grande Valley College off the expressway, they also have the bridge. And basically what it is once you've signed on to the LVN, it's understood that you're going to continue with courses and ultimately finish with your RN degree. And it's like a transitionary period. So you basically, as long as you're in compliance with whatever's mandated by the program, you end up graduating with an RN. And depending on how the structure is, you can work as an LVN while you're going to school to finish your RN. It's a wonderful opportunity.
That's awesome. I even hear
You
this
have to, yeah, you do have to
Oh,
specify. Yeah, you do have to specify when you're enrolling in these programs that that's what your ultimate goal is, and that's the pathway you want to take.
I'm also aware of that, and y'all may know
Thank
this as well, that there's apprenticeship openings and opportunities in health sciences. So that's something else. An apprenticeship is when you're basically on the job learning and getting paid. So you're getting educated, working in the field, kind of like your clinicals, things like that, but you're getting paid. So you're not having to, lean on your parents for help or take out loans or scour every website you can provide for scholarships, things like that. So there's multiple avenues that you can take. And again, you want to reduce that debt. You don't want to be just,
Yeah,
so
nursing
stressed over
schools,
that.
nursing school's expensive. It's I know I said 10,000 earlier, but that was 15 years ago. Now we're looking more towards if you're going vocational schools, it's almost 20,000 if I'm not mistaken. It's doubled, and it fluctuates throughout the years. So, but those apprenticeship programs, the value in those is, yes, you get paid, but the experience is the most valuable thing, because once you start actually practicing as a nurse, you already have all of those skills, which is the hard part, really, learning all the skills. But those apprenticeships really provide that practice that you need to work on the floor.
Awesome.
So
Great
many
question.
opportunities.
Thank you. Anyone else before we sign off? It's 11 o'clock. Excellent. The last thing I'm going to share is Carlos's contact information. So I appreciate you also providing your email address and also a work phone. So if you think after the fact, or you're joining us on the recorded version of this session, please reach out via email or leave a message at his work, and he will be happy to contact you. Just kind of mention something in those notes that you're part of the PATHS 4 Region 1 Gear Up Grant. Gear Up Grant, not Gear Up. I used to be a Gear Up, but the PATHS 4 grant here from Region 1. I'm so used to saying that all together, that so he can identify, where this question is coming from and why. Had to do with the Cybermentoring session.
Absolutely, yeah. Ask away.
Awesome. And so, I will also share this information on the email that goes out that has the link to the recorded version from today. So if you missed it right now, you didn't write it down, you will get an opportunity from the different sponsors, campus staff that are involved with the PATHS 4 project they'll be receiving the link to this session as well as your contact information. Awesome. Just getting a bunch of thank yous in the comments. So I appreciate that. We really do appreciate Carlos again taking the time today, sharing your wonderful knowledge, hopefully inspiring these awesome students to either follow your path or chart their own course.
I hope so.
Either
We
way,
need the nurses.
yes, we definitely do, without a doubt, which is why these grants come about, because there is a need. And so,
Absolutely.
I applaud you, students, your efforts. Keep it going. Just keep reaching out, keep making those efforts, keep sacrificing. It'll pay off someday. It might be a while, but it's worth it. You can see the smile on Carlos's face. It's all worth it. Okay, well, if there are no other questions, I thank you one and all for joining us today. This has been great. I haven't done cybermentoring in quite a while. I'm sorry Claudia couldn't be here herself, but I'm sure she'll resume these sessions for the next event. And I'll also share the remaining schedule of the other cybermentoring sessions that will be in that email as well. So signing off from Region 1 here in Edinburgh. Again, thank you, Carlos. Thank you, DHR Health. And thank you, Dr. Alvarado, for organizing this event, and Melissa, Eddie, and Veronica Escobedo, and anyone else. Y'all make it a great day.